Zuria's POV. The moonlight filtered softly through the sheer curtains of my room, bathing everything in a gentle silver hue. The bustle of the day had finally quieted. No more fittings, no more chatter about flowers or food or guest lists. Just the hush of anticipation wrapped in the comfort of home. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Come in," I called, already knowing who it was. Aunt Camilla stepped inside, cradling 2 mugs of tea in her hands. Her bare feet whispered across the wood floor, and she moved with that librarian grace, quiet but purposeful. "I figured you could use something warm," she said, passing me one of the mugs. I took it with a grateful smile. "Chamomile? Lavender blend. Your mom's idea." I laughed softly. She's really taken on the protective mom role. Aunt Camilla settled beside me on the bed, tucking her legs underneath her. She missed too many years. Now she's trying to make up for all of them. I nodded, my gaze falling to the steam curling from my cup. It's a lot. All of this. Sometimes I don't know how to process it. Aunt Camilla was quiet for a moment. You don't have to process it all at once. Just take it in, piece by piece. I turned toward her. Did you ever imagine this would happen? That we'd be here like this? Aunt Camilla's eyes softened. When I was hiding in Westbridge, I used to dream about it. About finding Naima again. About knowing you were safe. But I never let myself believe it could actually happen. Not after everything we lost. Her voice caught on the last word, and I reached out, placing my hand over hers. I didn't even know you existed, I said quietly. But now that I do, it feels like I found a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. She blinked rapidly, tears shining in her eyes. You have no idea how proud I am of you, Zuria. Everything you've endured, and yet you carry yourself with such grace. Most days I feel like I'm just trying to hold it together. And still, she said, squeezing my hand, you're here. You found love. A pack that cherishes you. Tomorrow you'll become their Luna, and not just because you were chosen, but because you deserve it. I swallowed hard, overwhelmed by her words. I'm scared, I admitted. Of messing this up. Of not being enough. Aunt Camilla turned fully toward me, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. You are more than enough. You are the granddaughter of a dire wolf and a lichen. That alone makes you worthy. Her words sank deep into the hollow places of my chest. I didn't even realize I was crying until Aunt Camilla reached out and brushed a tear from my cheek. You are your mother's daughter, Zuria. And your grandmother's legacy. Tomorrow, when you walk out in front of that pack, they won't just see a Luna. They'll see a legend. I leaned my head on her shoulder, the tea growing cool between my palms. Will you sit with me at the ceremony? I asked. She kissed the crown of my head. Of course. Right beside your mother. We'll be the proudest wolves in the crowd. In the silence that followed, I felt something shift. Not fear this time, but peace. And a little bit of wonder. That I had a family. That I had a home. That I wasn't alone. Tomorrow would come with all its pageantry and weight. The entire Shadow Fong Pack grounds had been transformed. Golden sunlight shimmered through the canopy above the ceremonial grove. Lanterns strung from tree to tree danced in the breeze. Silver thistle bloomed along the edges of the stone path. Aunt Camilla's touch, honoring our dire wolf heritage. Torches lined the way, leading toward the fire circle where the ceremony would be held. A hushed buzz of anticipation hung in the air. Pack members filled every available seat, their eyes trained toward the arched entrance where I now stood. My Aunt Camilla and my mom flanked me, one on each side, both dressed in deep violet robes threaded with silver symbols. Mira and Alara had dressed me in a flowing ivory gown that whispered over the ground as I walked. The crescent moon necklace from our grandmother lay against my chest, and the dire lichen shawl draped across my shoulders shimmered with threads only visible in moonlight. As I stepped forward, the music began, an ancient lichen melody carried on the notes of a flute and deep, rhythmic drums. The children of the orphanage lined the path, each holding a small lantern. When I passed by, they whispered, Luna. Lucas stood at the front of the group, his chest puffed proudly. The moment I stepped into the fire circle, the flames roared to life. Magic humming beneath the surface. At the center of it all stood Logan. He looked dashing in a tailored black tunic embroidered with the crest of the Shadow Fong Pack. His silver eyes met mine, reverent and hungry all at once. When I reached him, he extended his hand. I placed mine in his without hesitation. Logan's voice carried through the grove, powerful and commanding. Today, I present to you Zuria Velarin. My mate. My equal. My Luna. A howl erupted from the pack, one voice, then another, until the sound of hundreds joined in. I felt their energy surge through me. Through my wolf, Leslie. I claim her not to bind her, but to rise beside her, Logan continued. She is more than my heart, she is the strength of this pack. And together, we will lead not by fear, but by fire and faith. He turned to me then, voice softer now just for me. Zuria, do you accept the bond? The burden? The honor? My heart thrummed. I looked into his eyes and nodded. I do. With all that I am. He leaned in and kissed me, the kind of kiss that felt like a vow. The pack howled again in celebration. As we broke apart, Noema stepped forward holding a carved bowl of fire petals and ancient ash. She threw the contents into the flames, causing the fire to shift, burning a deep blue with a burst of silver. A blessing from our ancestors. Then, Aunt Camilla stepped forward and called for silence. The entire grove hushed as she lifted a scroll wrapped in violet twine. She began to chant an ancient rite, one passed down from the dire wolf line of their family, honoring the power of blood memory, instinct, and shadow. By Fong and Flame, by Moon and Marrow, we call upon the ones before to shield, to guide, to follow. As Aunt Camilla spoke, my mom lit a small brazier at the edge of the circle. From it rose a silvery smoke that curled into the trees and sky like spirits ascending. My mom added her own prayer in the old Lycan tongue, a blessing of protection, invoking the strength of our line and my future. May your blood sing true, may your soul never bend, and may no force break the fire within. The flames in the center pulsed once more, shifting colors again, this time to a deep violet. Aunt Camilla moved to my side and placed the crescent moon crown upon my head. Logan's POV, the moonlight bathed the packhouse in soft silver as the celebration carried on into the night. Lanterns glowed in every tree. Omegas served trays of honey-glazed meats, roasted vegetables, and steaming bread while a group of musicians played joyful tunes near the fire pit. Children twirled beneath the stars. Elders watched with misty eyes. But I only had eyes for her. Zuria moved through the reception like she was born to this. Graceful, regal, yet still so grounded. The pack greeted her with respect and affection. Even the most reserved elders bowed their heads when she passed. After some time, I walked to her and offered my hand. Come with me. Without hesitation, she placed her hand in mine. I led her away from the fire circle and through a side path toward the Moonstone Garden, a sacred grove behind the Alpha House. It was a place of quiet reflection, where the stones glowed faintly under the moonlight. She gasped softly. It's beautiful. I brushed a curl from her face. You're beautiful. She smiled shyly, cheeks flushing as she leaned into my touch. I still can't believe this is real, she whispered. It's as real as the mark on your neck, I murmured, letting my fingers gently trace it. Her lips met mine, slow and reverent. This wasn't the fire of our heat. This was the gentle glow after the storm. We sat on the smooth moonstone bench as the stars arched above us. She rested her head on my shoulder, fingers tracing the ridge of my hand. Just so you know, Leslie loves Jackson, she whispered. I chuckled. Jackson's been humming nonstop in the back of my mind. He's proud to be by her side. Zuria smiled softly. We stayed in the garden until the music faded and the stars began to drift westward. The morning sun crept over the ridgeline of the Shadow Fong territory, brushing the treetops in golden light. Dew clung to every blade of grass, and birdsong echoed gently through the crisp mountain air. I woke up with Zuria in my arms, her back curled into my chest, her skin warm beneath the linen sheets. Her scent, earthy soft, with that ever-present hint of cocoa butter, filled every breath I took. It calmed Jackson in a way nothing else ever had. She murmured in her sleep, stirring gently. I kissed her shoulder, not wanting to wake her. Not yet. But eventually we rose together, slow and unhurried. As I dressed, she watched me from the bed, eyes half-lidded and soft with affection. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The bond between us, newly formed, freshly marked, spoke volumes in the silence. When we entered the dining hall later that morning, the room stilled for a heartbeat. Every gaze turned to us. Jackson was practically preening in my mind, basking in the attention. He kept murmuring words like ours and perfect fit. Zuria was laughing softly beside me, nibbling on a slice of toast. I sat close, our arms brushing, and I could feel everything she felt. Peace, happiness, and underneath it all, a glowing sense of belonging. I leaned toward her, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "How do you feel?" She looked at me with those stunning green and amber eyes and whispered, "Like I'm finally where I was meant to be." Naima's POV weeks have passed since the Luna ceremony. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, the wind whispering through the tall pines that circled the training field like silent sentinels. The earth beneath our feet was still damp from morning rain, grounding, rich with the scent of moss and loam, perfect for what was about to be unearthed. Zuria stood across from me in the center of the training ring. Her face was calm, determined, but I could feel the tension vibrating beneath her skin. She wore a black training suit, her curls pulled back tightly from her face, eyes burning with quiet resolve. Logan stood just beyond the border of the circle, arms crossed, his gaze sharp, protective. The brothers flanked him. Theron, Nicholas, and Cade, each wearing the expression of someone trying not to interfere, but ready to strike if things went wrong. I knew this was dangerous, but it had to be done. Zuria had accepted her title as Luna. She had accepted her heritage. But the power inside her, the tangled legacy of Lycan's strength, dire wolf aura, and now alpha blood, remained dormant. Untamed power is like a river without a course, it will flood, destroy or drown. We had to teach her how to shape it, control it. "Are you ready?" I asked softly. Zuria nodded once, then added, "As ready as I'll ever be." I stepped back and closed my eyes, grounding myself in the moment. I felt the energy of the land, of the ancestors. My voice dropped low as I began the incantation. An ancient incantation passed from our mother to me. It was a call to the dormant bloodline. A summoning. By the marrow of moonborn beasts, by the howl beneath the stars, awaken flame, awaken Fong, let the slumbering soul unbar. The winds picked up suddenly. Leaves scattered across the circle, spiraling around Zuria's feet. A low hum began to rise from the earth, vibrating through the soles of my feet. Zuria's back arched. She gasped sharply and clutched at her stomach, then fell to her knees. "Naima!" Logan's voice cut through the wind like a whip, but I didn't flinch. Zuria gritted her teeth, sweat dotting her brow. Her breathing quickened, eyes wide with pain. And then a howl. Leslie. Her wolf. A sound that cracked across the sky like lightning. Zuria's hands clawed at the earth, her nails elongating. Her bones began to shift beneath her skin. Her aura flickered, gold, silver, and something darker pulsing underneath. "Zuria!" I called, my voice louder now. "You must stop resisting. Let it come through you." "I can't," she screamed through clenched teeth, tears streaking her face. "It burns, Mama." "That's because you're fighting it." I cried. "Your blood is trying to rise, but your mind is locking it down. Let go, baby. Let it move through you." Her body jerked violently, her mouth opening in a silent scream. Logan surged forward. "Naima, that's enough. She's in pain. Stop." He broke the boundary of the circle, running toward Zuria. Cade followed, rage flashing in his eyes. Before I could stop them, Cade grabbed me by the throat, shoving me back. "You're killing her." "I know what I'm doing," I tried to say, coughing as his grip tightened. Then Zuria collapsed. Her eyes rolled back, her body went limp. Everything stopped. The wind fell still. The hum of the earth quieted. My chant died in my throat. Logan dropped to his knees beside her, gathering her into his arms. Her skin was burning hot to the touch, sweat slick across her brow, but her breathing, thank the goddess, was still there, shallow but steady. Cade released me instantly, stepping back as guilt flashed across his face. I coughed, placing a hand on my chest. I had to try and break through. Her soul is a fortress. "She's not ready," Logan growled, his voice dark and low. "She can't handle this. You should have stopped sooner." He stood, lifting Zuria into his arms like she weighed nothing. Her head fell against his shoulder, limp and fragile. "I'm taking her home," he said, already walking. The brothers followed him, silent now. The tension inside the Alpha house felt like a storm brewing just beneath the surface. Naima sat rigid on the couch in the living room, her back straight, her hands clenched in her lap. Her face was flushed, eyes glassy, but she held her ground as Maddox paced in front of her, arms crossed tightly. "What were you thinking, Naima?" Maddox's voice wasn't raised, but every word was sharp. She screamed in pain. Logan had to pull her out. Now she lays unconscious. "I wasn't trying to hurt her," Naima snapped, standing abruptly. Her voice cracked from the weight of guilt and fear. Maddox didn't back down. "You nearly killed her." Naima's voice dropped, trembling. Maybe she's not ready." Before another word could be exchanged, the living room door flew open with a bang. Camilla rushed into the room, her chest heaving as she clutched her burner phone tightly in one hand. Her usually composed face was pale and frantic, hair slightly disheveled from running. Her shawl trailed behind her like a warning flag. "Naima," she gasped, then looked around the room, suddenly realizing she had barged into something heavy. Maddox stood tense, Naima looked like she'd been crying, and Marta had just entered with a dish towel still draped over her shoulder, her expression serious. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but Dante. He made contact. He's in trouble. They found him. The bounty hunters, they're after him. He's on the run." Camilla's voice cracked as the tears spilled down her cheeks, her body shaking with restrained panic. She raised the phone slightly, as if to prove it had happened. The room fell still. Naima stood frozen for a breath before rushing to her sister's side, taking the phone and reading the last message. "West Anchorage," she murmured. "They're closing in. He's injured. He didn't say how bad." Camilla wiped her eyes. "He said he's heading for the ridge, but he doesn't think he'll make it on foot." Maddox muttered a curse under his breath and turned away, already pulling out his own phone to relay orders. Just then, Logan entered through the hallway door, having heard the tail end of the conversation. He strode in, his expression dark. "She's sleeping," he said firmly. "No fever, but her body's still recovering. And she's emotionally drained. Whatever training that was, it's not happening again. Not like that." His voice was final. Naima lowered her gaze. "I wasn't going to try again. I promise. I was wrong to rush it. Clearly, she's not ready." Camilla stepped between them, her voice firm but calm. "Everyone just breathe. We need to focus." She turned to Logan. "We have to save Dante. That's our priority. Once he's safe, we'll talk about how to proceed with Zuria's awakening." Marta moved across the room, placing a hand on Naima's back, rubbing slow, comforting circles. "She's your daughter. I know you didn't mean to harm her." Naima nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. Zuria's POV, the warm golden light, filtered softly into our bedroom when I finally opened my eyes. For a moment, confusion clouded my mind. My body ached in ways I couldn't describe. Every muscle had been pulled, stretched, then left to unravel. Where was I? How did I get here? The familiar scent of sandalwood and pine. The scent of Logan settled over me like a bomb. I was in our bed. My thoughts raced back to the training field. The pain. The chant. The roar of something inside me trying to break free. And then, nothing. The door creaked open. Mira stepped in, holding a tray with a steaming bowl of chicken noodle soup. Marta's signature comfort dish. "You're awake," Mira said with gentle relief. "How are you feeling?" "Like I fell off a mountain," I muttered, my throat hoarse. I sat up slowly. The weight in my bones felt otherworldly. She set the tray on the nightstand and perched on the edge of the bed. "Marta wanted you to eat something. But if you're not ready, that's okay." "Where's Logan?" I asked instead, my voice quieter now. Mira looked at me for a moment, then smiled faintly. "In the living room. Everyone's there." I pushed the covers back. "I need to see them." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I interrupted gently. Mira didn't stop me as I climbed out of bed, only followed quietly to ensure I didn't collapse. My legs were shaky, but I moved forward with purpose. I needed answers. I needed to understand what happened. As I descended the staircase, the soft murmur of voices floated up to me. When I turned the corner and stepped into the living room, every conversation halted. Camilla stood in the center, holding her phone tightly. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Logan was up in a flash, across the room in seconds. "Zuria," he breathed, sliding an arm around my waist. "You should be resting." Naima's breath hitched as she saw me. Tears instantly welled in her eyes. Zuria. I'm so sorry. But I raised my hand weakly. No. I'm the one who should be apologizing. I failed. Naima stepped forward, and Logan instinctively moved to block her path. I looked at him and nodded. It's okay. She didn't mean me harm. Logan hesitated but then stepped aside. I crossed a few steps and embraced Naima. Her arms wrapped tightly around me, and for a moment, we just stood there, mother and daughter, trembling. Logan gently led me to the couch, helping me sit. I sank into the cushions, exhausted but alert. I turned to Aunt Camilla, whose expression was tense, pained. Tell me what's going on. What can we do to bring Uncle Dante home? Her voice trembled as she spoke. He's in trouble. They've found him, the bounty hunters. He contacted me. He's running. Injured. He's somewhere near West Anchorage. A heavy silence followed. Then Logan stepped forward, eyes sharp. We need to get to him before they do. The living room transformed instantly. Theron and Cade leaned forward, already strategizing. Maddox pulled out a large map, placing it across the coffee table. Naima wiped her eyes and stood straighter. Aunt Camilla shared every detail Dante had sent her. Coordinates, hiding spots, code phrases. Meanwhile, from the kitchen, Marta, Mira, and Alara were preparing dinner, occasionally glancing in with worried eyes. The clatter of pans and the scent of garlic and roast meat offered a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. I sat back, heart pounding, not sure what I could do to help. Dante's POV: for the past 6 months, I worked rotation shifts on the North Star rig off the coast of West Anchorage, Alaska. 1 week on, 1 week off. The money was good, the isolation better. Out here, I was no one. Off-grid. Hidden. The Alaskan wind carried it in faint, sharp layers. Foreign scents embedded in fur and smoke. It wasn't the usual scent of loners or native shifters in the area. But tonight the air carried something fouler than frost. The moment I smelled wolves in the air, I knew the fragile balance of this quiet life had been shattered. Wolves. Not locals. Not wild-born. I reached my building and mounted the exterior stairs, each step groaning beneath my weight. As I reached the top landing, key already in hand, the front door flung open and a petite, dark-haired woman with piercing steel-blue eyes stood framed by the glow of the hallway. Her hands cradled her slightly swollen belly protectively. "You're finally home," she whispered, voice tight. I pushed inside, locking the door behind me. "What happened, Ayala?" Ayala Vorn, my mate, was a dire wolf like my mother had been. Quick, silent, and deeply intuitive. She grabbed my arm and pulled me into the kitchen. "They've been here. Not inside, but outside. Watching. Same 4 men everywhere I went. Grocery store. Pharmacy. Even the laundromat." My gut tightened as I stepped into the living room, pulling aside the curtain. A man stood across the street, leaning casually against a lamp post. Watching, smiling. "We need to go. Pack only what we need. Food. Documents. Cash." Auella didn't argue. Her instincts matched mine. Within minutes, there were 2 packed duffel bags, zipped and slung over my shoulders. Clothes, prenatal vitamins, weapons, cash, burner phones, extra IDs. We slipped out the side kitchen window, to the fire escape. A rusted metal staircase leading down the side alley behind the building. The wind howled through the alley, and the sound of the city seemed to hold its breath. We moved quickly, weaving between buildings and crossing behind closed shops. But before we reached the end of the block, their scent filled the air, the hunters. Auella stopped mid-step. "Behind us," she whispered. I turned. "Get behind me," I growled. 4 men emerged from the shadows, all of them in human form, but their eyes gleamed with intent. 2 held silver blades, the other 2 carried tranquilizer rifles. "You don't want to do this," I warned, my voice guttural and low. "Walk away." The tallest man, blond and broad, grinned. "A lichen and a pregnant dire wolf? That's more than a payday. That's a legacy harvest." "Velerin," one of them called, voice too smooth. "We're here for you and her. You know how this ends." "Yeah," I said, shrugging off my jacket and tossing the duffel bags aside. "With your fucking teeth scattered across this alley." The hunters attacked first. I surged forward with the speed of a striking predator. The first man swung a silver dagger, but I ducked low, catching him in the throat and slamming him against the brick wall with enough force to crack stone. As the man fell, I turned, catching a tranq dart in the arm. I snarled, my body already metabolizing the wolfsbane toxins. The second hunter lunged, slicing a deep gash across my left arm. I let the pain drive me forward, shifting mid-lunge. My body elongated, muscles bulging, bones cracking as my lichen form took over. Towering at nearly 8 feet, my fur was dark with streaks of gray, rippling over corded muscle, claws extending, jaws gleaming. Eyes glowed gold. My roar split the air, echoing down the alley. He rushed at me. I dodged left, caught one by the throat, slammed him into the wall. I turned in time to feel the burn of silver slice my thigh. The sting was deep, the scent of my own blood sharp in my nose. I grabbed his wrist, twisted, snapped it backward. Then drove my claws into his chest and ripped his heart out. A dart missed my ear. I turned and pounced. The shooter didn't even scream before I ripped out his throat. One left. He ran. I grabbed a broken pipe and hurled it like a spear. Silence. When it was over, 4 bodies lay broken in the snow. The alley reeked of blood and burning silver. I shifted back, breathing raggedly. Pain bloomed from the silver, but I was still standing. Ayala handed me the sweatpants and hoodie she pulled from one of the bags, eyes wide but calm. "You okay?" she whispered. "Fine," I grunted, yanking the pants on. "We can't stay." I dressed fast, grabbed the bags, and we ran. As we moved through the shadows, I yanked out the burner phone and texted Camilla. "Hunters. For down this time. On the run. We'll find a new place to relocate." I didn't wait for a reply. I just kept Ayala moving. We moved again, this time to a low-budget motel across town. Ayala showered in silence, then curled up on the bed with her hand protectively over her belly. I stood by the window, weapon drawn, watching the empty parking lot. I kept watch all night while she curled around her belly. I could hear 3 heartbeats. Hers. And our 2 pups. My phone buzzed near dawn. A reply from Camilla, "Go to Port Chignik. Take the barge, Hollow Wind to Bellingham, Washington. The journey is about 15 days. Maddox, Cade, Theron, and Nicholas will meet you at the dock. Maddox will recite the riddle. That's how you'll know." Camilla, I read the message twice before erasing the message. The Hollow Wind was a freight barge known to take odd cargo. If we made it there, we'd be safe for now. I was grateful she found a way to extract us. I hadn't expected that. I just wanted to give her an update. We always updated each other. I lost contact with Naima a few years back. But as far as I knew, she was safe as an Omega servant, according to Camilla several years ago. We left the motel before dawn, bundled under heavy jackets, moving like ghosts through the snowy streets. We stayed alert, sniffing the air every few miles. I used a stolen SUV, traveling the ice-laced backroads of Alaska with care. Stayed off the main highways. Slept in abandoned cabins. It took us nearly 24 hours to reach Port Chignik. But safety was a fleeting thing. 5 miles outside Port Chignik, the road twisted through thick pine woods. That's where they ambushed us. 2 more bounty hunters. A strip of nails across the road. The tires blew. "Get out," I said, already grabbing the bags. One fired a silver round that shattered the rear window. Ayala screamed and ducked. I slammed the brakes, throwing the SUV into a slide. It crashed into a snowbank. I jumped out, already shifting, the transformation slower, now due to exhaustion and the wolfsbane. One tranquilizer dart hit my thigh. Another grazed my shoulder. The first attacker lunged, blade flashing, landing a kick to my ribs before I grabbed him by the throat and hurled him into a tree with enough force to splinter bark. The second was faster, slashing my ribs. I roared in agony. Spinning, I tackled him, pummeling his face into the dirt, howling with rage. He was dead before he hit the ground. Blood soaked my side. I shifted back, shaking. Blood oozed from my wounds, my breath shallow. But the healing had already begun. "Ayala," I called. She ran to me. Her eyes were fierce but scared. We were both exhausted. "Dante," Ayala cried, holding the bags. "We have to go." We ran to the edge of the hill overlooking Port Chignik. The sea sparkled below. The Hollow Wind, a rust-colored freight barge with thick icebreakers, was already docked, cargo being loaded. We made it. We reached the docks just before nightfall. The hollow wind sat low in the water, a rusty barge groaning from the weight of cargo. On board the hollow wind Ayala and I boarded under false names. I kept her close, cloaked and hooded. We were shown to a private berth below deck, cold but safe. The journey would be long, but it was better than bleeding in the snow. I held Ayala close, one hand over her stomach, the other clutching my blade. Her breathing slowed. The pups kicked once gently. I whispered to the dark, "We'll make it. We'll be there soon." As the barge pulled away from the icy dock, I collapsed onto the cot beside Ayala, finally allowing my eyes to close. By the time the hollow wind docked at Bellingham's port, I could barely keep my eyes open. 15 days at sea had taken its toll, and though the barge provided safe passage, the constant creaking metal and smell of oil clung to everything. Ayala and I had rotated watch duty, but she was far too pregnant to carry the burden. I stayed up most nights, knife in hand, always listening. We disembarked slowly. Ayala's hand gripped mine tightly as we stepped down the gangway. Her cheeks were hollowed from exhaustion, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. She was strong, my mate. Stronger than any average wolf. The moment we set foot on the gravel of the port, I felt them. Wolves. For men stood near the edge of the dock. Quiet. Motionless and powerful. The tension in my muscles rippled. I stepped forward, immediately sliding into a defensive stance, and pulled Ayala behind me protectively. Her hand instinctively covered her belly. The one in front stepped forward, palms lifted like he meant no harm. Beta aura radiating off of him. He didn't posture like a threat. He approached like a warrior. "Maddox," he introduced calmly. "I come bearing the words your sister gave me. So you'd know you can trust me." I narrowed my eyes. "Speak." He smiled faintly, then recited the words, steady and clear. "When the moon bows low and the sea holds still, what flies without wings through forests and hills? Bring me the truth wrapped in wolf's breath and flame, and tell me the one who remembers my name." I let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Relief slammed into me like a wave. My fingers loosened from Ayala's arm. "You found us," I said. "We did, but we didn't know there would be two of you," Maddox replied. "No problem. We're bringing you home." Behind him, 3 others spread out, surveying the shadows, ears sharp for trouble. It was clear this wasn't just a greeting. This was an extraction. Maddox introduced the 3 brothers, pointing to each one as he said their name. "This is Cade. That's Theron. And the one over there is Nicholas. They are our gammas, affectionately known as the brothers," he said with a smirk on his face. 2 sleek black SUVs sat idle near the dockside, tinted and clean. Cade and Maddox got into the front vehicle. Theron gestured for us to follow him, and Nicholas into the second. Once inside, I let Ayala rest against me, her body trembling slightly. I could tell she was nervous, but she trusted me. The engine purred as we pulled away from the port, heading east. "How's Camilla?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Theron glanced at me in the rear view. "She's good. She'll be happy to see you." Nicholas added with a smile, "Your entire family is at Shadow Fong now." I blinked. "What do you mean entire?" Nicholas turned in his seat. "I mean Naima's there too. And your niece." My brain short-circuited. "Niece?" "Zuria," he said. "Naima's daughter." I sat there, stunned, mouth slightly open. "Naima has a daughter?" Theron chuckled. "Oh, there's a lot you'll be catching up on. Just know this, your family's safe. Shadowfong is strong. And you're going to fit right in. All of you." I looked down at Ayala's sleeping form curled against my shoulder. Her hand protectively rested on her belly, and I felt the lives inside stir. My family. Back together. The rest of the drive was long but quiet. No signs of pursuit. No suspicious scents. I kept my eyes on the window as trees blurred past. Each mile felt like another layer of weight peeled from my back. My wounds had healed, but exhaustion remained anchored in my bones. Still, I didn't let myself relax completely, not until I saw the gates. Massive iron-bound timber formed a crescent arch over the entrance to Shadowfong territory. Ancient runes were etched into the wood, glowing faintly in the moonlight. When we passed through, I felt it. The pack bond. A warm hum in my chest. Resonant. Inviting. Nicholas grinned when he saw my expression. "You feel it, don't you?" I nodded slowly. We pulled into a long drive up to what looked like a fortified mansion, the pack house. It was larger than I expected. Stone walls and timber beams, lit windows, and the sound of laughter somewhere inside. As soon as the SUV stopped, the front doors flew open. Camilla and Naima stood at the top of the stairs, and for a second I couldn't breathe. I opened the door and helped Ella out slowly. My arms trembled from emotion. Camilla ran first, her face already soaked with tears. "Dante! Cam!" I choked out as she barreled into me, hugging me fiercely. "You're okay." Naima was only a step behind. She wrapped her arms around both of us. The three of us stood there holding each other like lifelines. Then Camilla's eyes widened. "Who's this?" She stepped around me to Ayala, who stood quietly with a hand on her round belly. "This is Ayala," I said proudly, slipping an arm around my mate. "My mate." Naima's eyes sparkled. "She's beautiful." "And expecting," Camilla added, her voice cracking with awe. "Oh, Dante. I didn't know you had a mate," Naima whispered, smiling through tears. "I didn't know you had a daughter," I replied. Naima nodded. "You'll meet her soon." The reunion was broken when a strong figure approached from inside the house. "Alpha Logan." I bowed my head immediately. "Thank you, Alpha, for helping us. For bringing us here." "No thanks needed for family helping family," Logan said with a calm certainty. "Welcome home." He turned to the Omegas nearby. "Natalia, show Dante and Ayala to their room. Make sure they have everything they need. Marta is preparing a meal for them." Natalia nodded and gestured for us to follow. Before I moved, I turned to Logan one last time. "Thank you. Truly." Logan gave a smile. "Tomorrow, Ayala will see the pack doctor. Just to be sure she and the pups are doing well." I blinked. "Pups?" Logan's grin widened. "I can hear the heartbeats." I looked at Ayala, who looked just as shocked as me, then let out a stunned laugh. "This place really is magical." Together, hand in hand, we walked through the threshold of our new home. The room they gave us was upstairs, near the west wing of the pack house. Natalia led us with quiet warmth. Ayala moved slowly beside me, one hand bracing her lower back and the other in mine. I could tell she was trying to be strong, but her steps were uneven, her body tired. When Natalia opened the door, I paused. The room was warm and large. A fireplace glowed low at the far wall, and soft linens covered a wide bed. A window looked out toward the forest line, where moonlight painted silver streaks over the trees. "If you need anything, just let me know," Natalia said gently. "Just call my name from the hall, and I will be right there. Sapphire, the other Omega assigned, will be up shortly with your meals. The bathroom is fully stocked with towels and essentials. If there is a preference, just let one of us know and we will get it for you. I know it's been a long journey, so get some rest." I nodded, too tired to form words, and she slipped out silently. Ayala turned to me and sighed, finally allowing herself to lean against the wall. Her belly was prominent beneath the sweater she'd worn since the barge. Her face carried the weight of too many sleepless nights and of anxiety. "We made it," she whispered. I stepped toward her, cupping her face in both hands. "You're safe now." "We're safe." Her lips trembled. "I didn't think we'd make it off that street alive, Dante. I saw them. Those men. The hunters will always come." My jaw clenched. I pulled her into my arms, one hand sliding around her back, the other protectively over her belly. "I would die before I let them touch you." "I know," she murmured into my chest. "I know. But even you can't fight the world alone." I nodded slowly. "I don't have to now." She leaned back and looked up at me. "You're sisters. Camilla and Naima." They hugged me like they already loved me. "They do," I said, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "They've been running just like us. If they found refuge here, then this is definitely where we should be." Her eyes shimmered. I led her to the bed and helped her sit down slowly. She let out a long sigh as she settled against the pillows. "You okay?" I asked, crouching in front of her. "Better now than I've been in months," she admitted. "These pups are active." "It is," I said with certainty. "This is where our pups will be born." She smiled then. For the first time in what felt like forever, it wasn't a forced smile. It reached her eyes. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too." A soft knock at the door pulled our attention. Natalia and Sapphire entered again, this time with 2 covered trays. Some roasted vegetables, grilled salmon, and broth, Natalia said. Marta thought you might prefer something warm. Ayala's stomach growled audibly. Natalia smiled. Thought so. They set the trays on the small table by the window, gave us both a soft smile, and left again. We ate in silence, except for the occasional murmur of appreciation. The food was delicious. It was the best meal we'd had in weeks. Maybe months. When we finished, Ayala leaned her head against my shoulder. Outside the window, the forest swayed gently under moonlight. Do you think they'll ever find us here? She asked quietly. I don't know, I said. But if they do, thankfully, we won't have to deal with them alone. She was silent for a long time, then said, I think our babies will be safe here. I placed a hand over her stomach, where I could already feel one of them shifting slightly. After we ate and took a much-needed hot shower, we came downstairs and saw Naima and Camilla in the living room. When Ayala and I walked in, hand in hand, the room quieted for a moment. Then Camilla stood from her seat and rushed toward me. You look human again, she said, voice choked with emotion, arms wrapping tightly around my neck. I laughed, hugging her back. And you look like someone finally let you sleep. Naima approached next, her eyes glimmering with pride. Ayala, come sit. I know you must be tired from the long journey. Camilla gasped softly. Ayala, you're glowing. Everyone chuckled, and soon we were guided to our seats. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting golden light on the walls. The conversation turned warm and light. We talked of our travels, of harrowing nights and close calls. Each sibling had stories that made us laugh and cry. So how did you two meet? Camilla asked softly. Ayala's POV. The fire crackled quietly in the hearth of the packhouse living room, casting warm flickers of light across the walls. The evening had fallen softly over Shadow Fong territory, and the packhouse hummed with a calm energy. I sat comfortably in one of the oversized armchairs, a soft knitted blanket draped over my legs. My hand rested lightly on my swollen belly, fingers occasionally rubbing small circles in a soothing rhythm. Camilla sat across from me, perched on the edge of the couch with an eager glint in her eye. Naima was nearby, curled up on the other end of the sofa, while Maddox leaned against the wall, arms crossed casually. Alpha Logan stood near the fire, sipping from a mug, his eyes alert and curious. Camilla leaned forward, her voice curious but warm. So, Ayala, how did you and my brother meet? You've barely had time to breathe since arriving. I'd love to hear your story. I smiled softly, my amber eyes thoughtful. It's not as romantic as you might imagine. More like fate disguised in paperwork. The room chuckled softly. I was working as the HR coordinator for North Star Rig in Anchorage. I began, my voice calm but rich with emotion. It was a job that kept me under the radar, which was exactly what I needed. I kept my head down, stuck to the shadows, and didn't make waves. That's what you do when you're hunted. Naima's expression tightened. Camilla's eyes softened. Dante came in one afternoon for onboarding. Cold, distant, gruff, and beautiful in that stoic, wounded sort of way. I said, my smile deepening. Naima smiled in amusement. Dante had just entered with a glass of water for me and now sat silently beside me, one arm stretched across the back of my chair. I looked back at the group. There were inconsistencies in his application, I said. Dates that didn't line up. A couple of places of employment that didn't exist. I knew immediately he was hiding something. And for someone like me, I saw it. Because I was doing the same. I paused, glancing down at my belly. Instead of reporting it to my supervisor, I corrected the paperwork. Changed a few digits, and made the inconsistencies vanish. Just like that. Naima stared at me wide-eyed. Camilla was slack-jawed. Why? Maddox asked gently. I met his gaze. Because I could tell he was one of us. A wolf trying to survive. Dante reached over and quietly took my hand. We didn't talk for weeks, I continued. Just nods when we saw each other. Then one night, after an outage at the rig sent half the crew home early, he asked if I wanted to get a drink. And the rest is history. I paused, then slowly reached up and moved my dark curls aside, exposing my neck. A vivid claim mark rested just above my collarbone. Camilla gasped. You're mated. She looked at Dante with mock sternness. You didn't say a word. Dante just shrugged, his expression warm and content. My smile faded slightly, a shadow passing through my gaze. I'm a dire wolf. The room went still. Camilla chuckled. Leave it to Dante to find a woman like our mother. Maddox stood straighter. Logan just stared at me. Camilla blinked. I knew it. You have that same presence. That quiet strength. I looked down, my voice soft. My family was the last known direwolf clan on the East Coast. We lived deep in the forests of Maine, hidden for generations. We were cautious, but not cautious enough. A hunter cell discovered us 3 years ago. My voice trembled slightly. They came in the night. First we smelled their metal, then came the chaos. My father and 2 of my brothers fought back, while my mother, sisters, and I tried to escape. I don't know how many made it. We scattered. We were taught to never look back. Naima's hand was pressed to her lips, eyes glistening. I've been alone ever since, I whispered. Moving from town to town. Watching my back. I don't know if my parents survived. Or my siblings. I've been holding on to the hope that someone did. But now I don't know. There was silence, broken only by the soft crackle of the fire. Theron spoke, voice filled with rage. Those bastards. They need to be stopped. Every one of them. I nodded. They destroy everything. I never thought I'd find someone again. Let alone a mate. Dante gently pulled me closer. My eyes met his. Camilla reached out and squeezed my hand. Your family now. Always. Naima gave a tearful smile. Dante's POV. The morning sunlight filtered softly through the wide windows of the Shadow Fongpak Hospital, casting golden rays over the polished floors and clean walls. The scent of pine disinfectant and blooming flowers seeped in from outside, a strange but calming contrast. I held Ayala's hand tightly in mine as we sat in the private examination room, both of us quiet, both of us barely breathing. Ayala sat on the padded examination bed, her swollen belly rising and falling gently as she breathed. She looked radiant, even with the fatigue tugging at the corners of her eyes. Her long dark hair was pulled back in a braid, and she wore one of her soft maternity gowns, forest green and loose around her belly. Are you sure you're ready for this? I asked, brushing my thumb over her knuckles. She turned to me and smiled faintly. Ready to hear our pups? Absolutely. Nervous? That too. I nodded. The door opened then, and in walked a woman in her late 30s with warm brown skin, glasses perched on the tip of her nose, and a stethoscope draped casually around her neck. She wore soft gray scrubs with the Shadow Fong crest stitched over the breast. Good morning, she greeted, her voice like warm tea. I'm Dr. Reina Vallis. You must be Dante and Ayala. Yes, ma'am, I said, standing halfway before she gestured for me to relax. Let's take a look at those pups, shall we? She pulled on gloves and moved with practiced ease to Ayala's side. As she began to set up the ultrasound machine, she glanced at us with a smile. First-time parents? Ayala nodded. Very first. Dr. Vallis smiled again. Congratulations. All right, Ayala, I'm going to lift your gown and apply the gel. It'll be cold. Then we'll see what we can find. Ayala braced herself, and I squeezed her hand tighter as she gasped softly at the chill of the gel. My gaze was fixed to the monitor even before the image began to appear. I couldn't breathe. And then a small flicker. Then another. Dr. Vallis pointed. There we go. 2 strong heartbeats. Right there and there. Ayala's breath hitched, and her other hand flew to cover her mouth. You're having twin boys, Dr. Vallis said gently, turning the monitor slightly so we could see the 2 small, perfect forms nestled close inside her womb. Tears burned behind my eyes that I bent down, pressing my forehead to Ayala's hand and kissing her knuckles. 2 boys, baby. 2 little warriors. Ayala let out a shaky laugh, tears sliding down her cheeks. Dante, look at them. They're beautiful. They're perfect, I whispered, still staring at the monitor like it held the secrets of the universe. Dr. Vallis continued her examination, pointing out their heart rates. They're both measuring well. 6 months along, which tracks. They're healthy, active, and strong. Ayala closed her eyes for a moment, tears slipping from beneath her lashes. I knew what she was thinking. We had been running so long, afraid of losing each other. Afraid our pasts would catch up. But here, now, we were hearing the future in the steady rhythm of twin heartbeats. Would you like a recording of the sounds? Dr. Vallis asked. We both nodded eagerly. She turned up the volume, and the sound of the heartbeats filled the room. Steady, strong, like tiny drums of life. Ayala sobbed quietly, and I reached up to wipe the tears from her cheeks. They're real, she whispered. And healthy and strong. I leaned forward and kissed her gently. We're going to protect them. Raise them strong. Free. Together. When Dr. Vallis stepped out to give us a moment, we stayed there, still holding hands, staring at the printed ultrasound images she left for us. Do you think they'll look like you or me? Ayala asked with a soft laugh. Hopefully they have your eyes. And maybe my stubbornness, I teased. That could be problematic. I looked at her, at the strength in her tired smile. I placed my hand over her belly. I never believed I'd get this far. Not with hunters on our trail. Not with how many nights we slept with one eye open. But now, we're here. Ayala nodded. We arrived back at the pack house a little after noon, and the moment we walked through the door, Natalia and Sapphire greeted us with matching smiles and a surprise. I hope you don't mind, Sapphire said gently. But we took the liberty of collecting some things for Ayala. She led us upstairs to our room where a spacious closet had been freshly stocked. Inside, maternity clothes. Beautiful maternity garments in every earthy tone and soft fabric imaginable lined the hangers. Folded sweaters, leggings, and even a few sets of delicate nightwear rested on the shelves. Ayala's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. This is too much, she whispered. Natalia stepped forward with a kind smile. Not at all. These came from women in the pack who are around your size. Some are new mothers, some just wanted to give something to help. You're part of the family now. Ayala turned to me with trembling lips. They did all this for me? I pulled her into a gentle hug, whispering in her ear. You deserve it. Every bit of it. She clung to me, sobbing softly against my chest while I thanked Natalia and Sapphire profusely. Their kindness chipped away at the years of tension we carried. Later that afternoon, we gathered in the dining hall for a quiet lunch. I sat beside Ayala, my hand never far from hers, and across from us was Naima, sipping herbal tea with a knowing smile. We just got back from the hospital, I said casually. Oh, Naima asked. We're having twin boys, I announced with a grin. Naima gasped and clapped her hands together. Twin boys. Goddess bless. I'm so happy for you both. Ayala blushed, but her smile was proud. I can already see them ganging up on us, I teased. Naima laughed, then her expression softened. Have you had a chance to meet Zuria yet? Naima asked. I shook my head. Not yet. She's been studying a lot. Learning to read and write, she said with her voice low. I blinked. Wait. What? Naima's expression turned somber. She never had the chance to learn. Darian and his Luna, Karen kept her in isolation, treated her like a prisoner. They punished her for speaking, and denied her an education. Rage burned through me. I slammed my fist against the table hard enough to make the tea rattle. Those vile cowards. If I ever cross paths with either of them. I know, Naima said softly, placing her hand over mine. I exhaled slowly, trying to push down the fury. I tried training her, Naima continued, to awaken her dire and lichened sides, but it backfired. She wasn't ready. Or maybe I wasn't the one meant to guide her. You are her mother, I said firmly. You are qualified to train her. That doesn't mean you have to do it all alone. Naima looked at me startled. I'll help her, I promised. I swear it. Whatever she needs. Whatever it takes. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Thank you, Dante. That means more than you know. It wasn't just a promise to Naima. It was a vow for my niece. That night, as Ayala rested on our bed, one hand protectively over her belly, I sat in the chair near the window, staring into the night sky. My thoughts were full of the sisters I had only just reunited with, the niece I had never met, and the wolves I'd one day raise. Zuria's POV, the long table in the Alpha House dining room, was fuller than I had ever seen it. The warm lighting glowed off the polished wood and cast a cozy light over everyone seated there. Alpha Logan and Beta Maddox at the head. Cade, Nicholas, Theron scattered along the sides. Across from me sat Naima, Camilla, and our newly arrived guests, Dante and his maid Ayala. It was the first time I was seeing my uncle. A man with Naima's steady eyes and Camilla's strong jawline. But it was Ayala who spoke first. "You're so beautiful," she said softly. Heat rushed to my face and I ducked my head shyly. "Thank you," I murmured. That earned a grin from Logan, who gently rubbed his thumb over the back of my hand beneath the table. I felt grounded by the gesture. The Omegas arrived with steaming trays of food. Roast lamb glazed in wild herbs, root vegetables roasted with rosemary, and fresh-baked bread. Marta emerged from the kitchen with a kitchen towel slung over her shoulder, beaming with pride. "Well, well," she said, eyeing Dante and Ayala. "If it isn't our newest additions. Welcome to the heart of the house." Ayala smiled warmly, her hand resting gently on her belly. "Thank you. Oh, I can already picture those babies running around the nursery," Marta said with a playful wink. "We're going to need a bigger toy box." Camilla chuckled. "Marta, you've been planning a baby room since I moved in." We all laughed, the energy around the table turning vibrant and light. Dante turned toward Alpha Logan, voice taking a more serious tone. "About Zuria's training." A low growl rumbled from Logan's chest, almost reflexively. His hand tensed under mine. Dante held up a hand. "Easy, Alpha. I'm not blaming anyone. Just saying, I know how hard it is to awaken the bloodline. Believe me, when I was 16 and Dad helped me shift into my lichen form for the first time." He paused dramatically. "I peed myself." Camilla gasped, then burst into a fit of laughter. Naima followed, shaking her head in disbelief. "What? No way." Cade leaned in. "Are you serious?" Dante nodded, a sheepish grin tugging at his lips. "Yup. Right in front of Dad. I begged him never to tell anyone." "And he didn't," Camilla managed through her laughter. "But oh, if I had known. I would have never let you live it down." The whole table roared with laughter. Even Logan smirked, the tension in his shoulders easing. Still giggling, Camilla lifted her glass. "All right, since we're sharing. When I was 16, after Mom helped me shift into my lichen form for the first time, I cried. For like 15 minutes. Dante blinked. "Why? Did it hurt?" Camilla shook her head, her smile turning tender. "No. That was the thing. I don't know. It was like every feeling I'd ever buried came out all at once." Naima leaned in. "I didn't cry. Or pee. Or scream." "Of course you didn't," Dante grumbled. "You were always the overachiever." Naima laughed. "Mom and Dad helped me. Maybe that made it easier." At this point, Maddox and the brothers joined in, sharing their own awkward stories. Kate admitted he passed out. Nicholas said he tried to run to avoid shifting into his wolf and smacked into a tree. Theron confessed he shifted halfway and had to crawl naked back into the pack house. Tears streamed down Camilla's cheeks from laughing so hard. Even Auella, normally reserved, was leaning on Dante's arm, laughing breathlessly. Dante looked over at me, his voice softening. "You see, Zuria? It's not just you. We all have messy, ridiculous stories. You're not failing. You're just learning. Like the rest of us." Something loosened in my chest. The shame, the self-doubt, the pain of that day in the training circle, it didn't vanish. But it didn't feel like a weight anymore. "Thanks, Uncle," I whispered. He nodded. Then he turned serious again. "When you're ready, I'll help you. We'll try again." Logan placed a kiss on my hand. The warmth in the room. The laughter. The food and the family. Logan's POV. The moon hung high by the time the house finally quieted down, its soft glow filtering through the tall windows of the Alpha house like a silvery veil. The laughter from dinner still echoed faintly in the back of my mind. The warmth of shared stories, Zuria's tentative giggles, the way her eyes lit up when Dante teased her like she'd always belonged in that circle. The pack house had long since settled into peace. Marta had gone upstairs. The brothers were off doing patrols, or winding down for the night. Even Maddox had retired to his quarters. Zuria was curled up in the large wingback chair near the hearth in our bedroom, knees to her chest, one of the soft wool blankets draped over her shoulders. Her dark curls spilled messily down her back. She was staring into the dying embers of the fireplace, quiet and reflective. She looked up as I entered the bedroom from the bathroom with a towel wrapped around my waist. A small smile curved her lips. Hey yourself," I said gently, crossing the room. I knelt in front of her and brushed my knuckles down her cheek. Her skin was still warm from the firelight, but there was a weight in her eyes that hadn't been there during dinner. "You are abnormally quiet," I murmured. Zuria shrugged. "I guess I just needed to sit with it. All of it. The laughter. The stories. The memories." I reached for her hand, threading our fingers together. She smiled faintly. "I never imagined this. Family. Laughter. People who wanted me. People who don't look at me like I'm broken." My jaw tensed, and I kissed her knuckles one by one. "You're not broken, Zuria." She looked down, tears brimming. "I always thought maybe something was wrong with me. Maybe that's why my father and Karen hated me so much." I pulled her into my lap, wrapping both arms tightly around her. "There's nothing wrong with you. You were failed by the ones who should have protected you. But you're not broken." Her head rested against my chest, and I felt her heartbeat sinking with mine. "I was scared they wouldn't like me," she whispered. "That I wouldn't measure up to their expectations." "Zuria," I said, tipping her chin so she looked into my eyes. "You don't have to measure up to anything. You just have to be you. That's more than enough. You've survived the worst of this world. You're still standing. That makes you stronger than most warriors I know." A tear slid down her cheek, and I caught it with my thumb. She leaned in and kissed me, slow and tender. When she pulled back, she gave a little laugh. "You guys are kind, but yet vicious and loud." I chuckled. "You should see them during hunting season." "I can't believe Uncle Dante peed on himself," she said, still smiling. "Neither can I. That story is going to live in infamy." She laughed again, a real laugh, and it filled the room like music. I carried her over to the bed, laying her down gently before climbing in beside her. She curled into my side, head on my chest, fingers drawing idle patterns along my skin. "Do you think I'll ever tap into my lichen side?" she asked quietly. "I know you will." "How can you be so sure?" I kissed the crown of her head. "Because you're a survivor." She closed her eyes. "And if I fail? Then we try again. And again. Until you don't." A beat of silence. "I love you," she whispered. My throat tightened. I held her closer. "I love you, Zuria." I kissed her passionately and brought her closer to me. Later Zuria drifted off to sleep with a satisfied smile on her face. Zuria's POV, the sky, was a flawless stretch of sapphire when I stepped onto the training grounds that morning. Weeks had passed since meeting Uncle Dante at dinner, weeks filled with laughter, healing, and tentative peace. But today was different. Today I will try again. Logan's hand hovered near the small of my back as we walked down the packed dirt trail toward the open field. It was warm, grounding, and reassuring. When we reached the center of the training circle, I found Uncle Dante already waiting, arms crossed, his eyes as sharp as a blade. "You ready for this, Zuzu?" he asked, a slight smirk tugging at his lips. Smiling at the nickname he called me. I nodded. "I think so." Behind him stood my mom and Aunt Camilla, both smiling. Maddox and the brothers lingered near the tree line. Cade was bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet, clearly eager to see what today would bring. Nicholas leaned against a tree, arms folded, while Theron crouched low in the grass, watching closely. The circle hummed with energy, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. Uncle Dante turned to Camilla. "You ever seen your aunt shift?" I blinked. "No. Never." Uncle Dante looked at Camilla and jerked his chin. "Show her." Aunt Camilla stepped into the center of the circle. Her eyes closed, her breath steady. And then, without warning, her bones cracked, reshaping with terrifying elegance. Her body stretched and shimmered, fur rippling over her limbs until standing before me was a massive dire wolf. Sleek and regal, her eyes glowing like molten gold. A crowd had begun forming at the edges of the training ground and gasped audibly. But she didn't stop there. The dire wolf form shimmered again, and with another wave of shifting bone and sinew, she rose, growing taller, more imposing. Her limbs thickened, claws lengthened, her spine straightened. Before me now stood her lichen form, a tower of raw, primal might wrapped in fur and dignity. Cade muttered, clearly impressed, "My moon goddess." My mom stepped forward next. Without hesitation, she too shifted into her dire wolf. Silvery with piercing brown eyes, and then, with the same mastery, shifted again into her lichen form. I stood frozen, mouth parted, breath caught. Uncle Dante turned to me. "This is what you are. This is what you can be. With proper training you too will be able to summon which form you want to shift to, wolf or lichen. I shook my head, the awe slipping into anxiety. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Uncle Dante stepped closer. What's your wolf's name? I blinked. Ileana. He nodded. Then let me speak to her. I felt Ileana stir, curious and protective. My vision blurred with gold, and Uncle Dante's tone softened but grew more commanding. Ileana, I know you've been protecting Zuria for a long time. But now it's time to become. When you feel the shift, don't stop. Keep going. Let it pull you deeper. I know you can do this. My body trembled. Ileana pushed forward. My eyes blazed. Uncle Dante stepped back and began to chant. By the marrow of moon-born beasts, by the howl beneath the stars, awaken flame, awaken Fong, let the slumbering soul unbar. The moment the final word left his lips, my body ignited with pressure. My bones began to crack and stretch. I dropped to my knees, gasping. Logan stepped forward, concern etched in his every movement, but I raised my hand. I needed to try. Ileana howled inside me, a sound that echoed beyond our minds. I felt her expand, filling every corner of my spirit. My fingers clawed the dirt as my body shifted. Fur burst along my spine. My jaw elongated. I screamed, not in pain but in release. I shifted into my wolf form. Ileana stood tall, larger than before, her fur shimmering obsidian with streaks of gold. But she didn't stop. She pushed. Bones cracked again, louder this time. My limbs lengthened. My spine restructured. My back arched, and then I stood. The wind carried my howl, proud and mighty. A roar of applause and gasps rose from the pack surrounding the circle. I turned to see Logan's eyes shining with pride. Dante grinned like a proud uncle. Then in one swift motion he dropped, his body shifting into his dire wolf. A majestic, battle-scarred silver beast before rising into his own lichen form. Now there were 4 lichens in the circle. Aunt Camilla, my mom, Uncle Dante, and me. We roared in unison. The earth itself seemed to respond. Trees trembled. The sky felt closer. The air buzzed with magic. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was unstoppable.